Welcome back to Dead Good Book Reviews. I'm Judith and you're watching another What I'm Reading Right Now video. This is the series where I talk about what I have been reading, what I'm currently reading, and what I shall be reading next. Last week was my off week, so I have lots of books to tell you about. Let's not dilly-dally. Let's dilly-dally a little, because I've got to get my spreadsheet in order. I think I've read 9 things since last we spoke, not including the amount of fanfiction that I read. I never include it, but I feel like it's worth saying. If I counted fanfiction, I would be well above my page read goal. But alas, I personally am not counting it this year. First thing I finished was Shadow Baron. This is the sequel to Notorious Sorcerer. I really thought this was going to be a reread of the first one, felt okay about it. Reread of the second one, felt okay about it. I'd unhaul them. I'd never read book 3, maybe in the library one day. I really liked Shadow Baron. I think it's a good book. I think this is a testament to the power of editing and experience. It's much, much stronger than the debut. And don't get me wrong, did still like the debut, but where in book 1 we were mostly following Sion, our disaster bisexual sorcerer, in this we follow the other characters more. There are other characters in book 1 as well, but we follow them more, and this has one of my absolute favourite tropes in, which is a character discovering a knack for business in themselves where they thought they would just maybe be a housewife forever, hence the title Shadow Baron, hence this lovely cover. It's really great. It's a good story. I felt like I understood the world more. I don't know if that's just a product of having done a reread or whether it's better structured in this book. I just like this a lot. I still think Sion's plotline is the least interesting, but I've shocked myself because I will be reading book 3, and I will recommend this to people now in a way that I wouldn't have done just on book 1 alone. So that's a win in itself. If you haven't encountered this series before, they are about sorcery and alchemy, and rising against the odds is probably the easiest way to describe them without totally spoiling anything. I think book 2 is stronger than book 1, and those are my feelings on that. After that, I finished This Wicked Fate by Kalynn Bayron. This is the sequel to... Oh, is it behind me? No, I took it downstairs. It's the sequel to This Poison Heart. These are YA fantasy, but contemporary fantasy works about a young girl who has plant-based powers, and there's big ties to Greek mythology in there. There's a lot going on in these. I don't necessarily think that's its strong suit. Broadly speaking, fine. I had a perfectly decent time with the book. I would read more books by Kalynn Bayron. It's hard to know whether it's a case that this series isn't for me, or if YA isn't for me, or some combination of the two. I'm glad that I read the sequel. I'm glad that I can tick that off my list. I will probably now unhaul book 1 from my shelves because I don't feel the need to read that again, and I'll move on with my life. But I have read it. It was a decent time. I'm glad I didn't buy it. After that, I read Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. This is one of my absolute favourite books of all time, which is why I was rereading it. Confirmed. Absolutely amazing. I read this in one sitting, and it's not a short book. That hasn't happened for me in quite some time, even with this process where I'm rereading old favourites. I just sank into this book. I did not want to put it down, and I'd read it before. This is a wonderful story about relationships. It is kind of an arranged marriage trope romance, but there's so much more to it than that. Check out the content warnings if you're going to read this. I do kind of now want to reread Ocean's Echo because I feel like I have a better understanding of the world now, which was what I was missing with Ocean's Echo, but we'll find the time if there is the time. Highly recommend. This is the ARC cover, but it's such a good book. From strength to strength, I then finished The Echo Wife by Sarah Gailey. This is a sci-fi thriller kind of story. Maybe thriller is not the right word. Edge of your seat, says The Independent. So it's got thriller elements to it. This is about a woman who is a scientist studying cloning. Her husband leaves her, and then she meets his new wife, who is a clone of her. And it is much, much more than that, but that is as much as I can give you without spoiling it. It's a wonderful story about identity, about history, about, what it means to be people, there's like a nature versus nurture thing going on in there as well. It's very, very good. It's a great book. It's so thought-provoking, so interesting, and so fun at the same time. Like, there's a lot of, not necessarily humour to it, but there's a lot of wit in there. I love Sarah Gailey's writing. The tone is perfect in this. Highly recommend. I finished my audiobook read of A Song of Wraiths and Ruin by Roseanne A. Brown. Yes, that is what it's called. Yes. This is the first book in a duology. I have since started the second book in the duology, but I'm not very far in yet. I decided to do these by audiobook because I thought I would enjoy it more. I thought this was perfectly fine. I felt about the same as I thought I would feel, which is similar to other books. This is good. If I really loved YA at the moment, I'd probably really be loving this. It's just sort of hitting me in the kind of perfectly fine, entertaining, good characters, good ideas, an interesting world, just not mind-blowing for me at the moment. This is a dual perspective story. We have Malik, who is a youngish guy who in an effort to save his sister from some magical shenanigans, ends up signing up to this contest called the Solstasia, which is being run by the princess, who is the other perspective, and he is also trying to kill her because of the magical shenanigans. But it's an interesting way of doing that dynamic because she also wants to kill him. So it's a twist on a trope, but it is still quite tropey. Not that that's a bad thing. I'll see how I feel after the end of book 2, because as ever, we've had a book 1 with games and structure. Will this be another book where book 2 doesn't have that and thus falls flat? I'll report back when I finish it. In an effort to get my pages read back up and also to read some of the stuff I got for Christmas last year before we have another Christmas, I read Ramina, still don't know, by Junji Ito. This was given to me by my sibling last year, and it's not really my thing. My sibling gets me gifts, always something that I would never have expected, and in some ways that's a good thing. This is the story of they discover a planet kind of heading towards Earth. They name it after this scientist's daughter. The planet turns out to be kind of horrible and eating other planets, and then they blame the daughter for it and chase her around the Earth, and everyone's kind of horrible all the time. It sort of reminded me of that chapter of Sandman that I hate, where it's sort of just meant to be exposing how terrible people are. That's not my jam. That's not what I enjoy. I will be unhauling this. I'm glad that it exists. The art is lovely. I've heard good things about his other stuff. This particular book was not for me. Continuing on, more favourites, but these are for Overbooked. I finished a reread of The City of Brass by S.A. Chakraborty and also The Kingdom of Copper. Unsurprisingly, I will soon be going on to read the third book again. I really like these. This is one of my favourite series of all time. I'm aware it has some flaws. It's very cheesy at times, but oh boy does it get me emotional. This is the story of Nari, a young woman living in 18th century Cairo who has some strange mysteries about her life that she can't explain, until one day she accidentally summons a Jinn warrior from the past and he takes her off to the hidden Jinn city of Davabad, where she gets embroiled in an awful lot of politics and danger. Book 2 follows the same characters. More politics, more intrigue, more romance, more desperation. Oh, they're so good. I cannot express how much I love this series. I'm going to cry when I read book 3. I'm here for it. I love them. If you haven't already read them, you should pick them up. I am continuing my read of the Patternist series. So I finished Clay's Arc. I'm not really reading them in the proper order. I'm going vaguely chronological, but chronological in the series, not chronological in publication order. I'm okay with it, you need to be too. I like this, I thought it was good. As with all of these books, it's been very weird. I would recommend looking up content warnings. It was thought-provoking, but broadly speaking, I don't have a desire to read it again, but I'm glad that I've read it once. And that shunts us neatly into what I'm currently reading. So I'm 50 pages into Pattern Master, which is the fourth and last for me book that I will be reading in this series. I am 50 pages in. I don't have a huge amount to report. Similar vibes to the rest of the books. I'll let you know what I think when I get to the end. I already mentioned I'm vaguely working on the audiobook for A Psalm of Storms and Silence. I'm hoping to get a bit more read of that this week. Maybe I'll finish it. I genuinely don't know. And because I forgot to mention it last time, I am still working on this fabric book. I am now, let's see, 146 pages in. I'm in the chapter about wool. There is a separate chapter about tweed. It's interesting. I think we've very much lost the connection to her parents' death, which was very prevalent in the first chapter. So I don't know whether that was just like a way of framing the book. I'm interested to see. I've learned some things that I didn't necessarily know about sheep before. I'm just wanting you to know that I am still reading it. It's just slow going. I'd love to finish that before the end of the year, though. Still to read this week, I have 2 more things I would like to get to. I would really love to read A Tempest of Tea by Hafsa Faisal. I have this as a review copy online. I know it already came out somewhere else earlier in the year, unless they massively delayed the pub date, but I believe this is for the UK release. This is being marketed to fans of Six of Crows, which is interesting, and I don't know how I feel about that, or whether that's just marketing, or not sure if that's the smartest marketing move these days, but I have read maybe 10 pages, and so far there's been vampires, and that's interesting too. I'll report back on what I think. The other thing I would like to get to is a late addition to my November TBR. I'd really love to read Emily Wilde's Encyclopedia of Fairies. Reread, I should say, because I have a review copy of the second one, which shunts us neatly into books that I've added to my TBR in the last couple of weeks. I think it's 3 things. One of them is that Emily Wilde sequel, which is Emily Wilde's Map of the Other Lands. I liked book 1. I thought book 1 didn't have that much meat to it, but because I liked Shadow Baron so much, I have faith in Orbit sequels, and I'm going to tell you if I think it's any good. I've also added A Tempest of Tea, which I have already mentioned. By next week, I should be able to tell you about it. I also have The Principle of Moments by Esme Jacami Pearson. This just looks like it's going to be a fairly big book next year. I thought the cover looked really dynamic. I'll report back and tell you how it goes. I'm reading that in a few weeks. In terms of new releases, Shadow Baron is out. That's one thing that you can now read if you're interested. As I say, I do recommend it. The Witch Would Not is very nearly out. I'll have a review out for that next Thursday, so stay tuned if you like. Or that's already on Patreon if you're a patron of those particular tiers that get early access. We are kind of in the winding down part of the year for sci-fi fantasy. There's a whole lot in January, February, but for now, we're winding down. I should probably make a new releases for next year video at some point. I'll get on that. Once my unhaul is edited, I'll get on that. I think that's everything I kind of wanted to cover. I'm still running a lot. I'm half marathon training for next year, so that's intense. I've been doing some cross-stitch. I did some cross-stitch last week. It was lovely. Realised it's a dangerous hobby for me though, because once you start, I find it very difficult to stop until I am finished, and I lost basically a whole weekend to cross-stitch, so I have stopped myself from buying a new cross-stitch kit until most of the other things in my life are sorted. And also I'm desperate to buy myself an embroidery machine. That's my latest thing. I would really love an embroidery machine. They are so expensive and I really cannot justify that expense right now, but ooh, am I tempted. So if you have one, let me know what you have and do you like it? Yeah, I've had a lovely weekend seeing friends. I've just had a very soul-nourishing time lately, shall we say. It's been truly lovely. And if you are those friends who I saw, thank you so much for your time. You know I appreciate you. What have you been reading? What have you been up to? Let me know down in the comments below. While you're commenting, if you haven't already, please do subscribe. It makes me feel loved and appreciated. You can also come hang out on Discord where we have chill chats about books. I'd like to say an enormous thank you to all the ghosts who haunt me over on Patreon. They support the channel and in return get early access to videos, bonus content, live streams, and more. Maybe merch if I got an embroidery machine? Who knows? The possibilities would be endless. If you'd like to join their number, that's linked below as well. Thank you so much to you for watching. That's all from me, and I will see you in the next one. There's gonna be some bloopers now. After that, I read Winter's Orbit by Everina Maxwell. Yes. Is that who it's by? Yes. But it's some fantastic sci-fi, and I do now kind of want to reread... What's the book called? It should be, again, things behind me. The other thing I would like to get to is a late addition to my... What month are we in? November. I think in terms of new releases, Shadow Baron... Ooh, I should probably hold it up.